G'day guys, welcome back to the channel, and today of course we are here to review round 12. A couple of big games over the weekend. We did see our first round of the second sort of buys, so to speak. We had Brisbane, North Melbourne, Sydney and the Giants with the bye this week, but of course we still had 7 games to cover. So let's start with the first game on Thursday night between Port Adelaide and Carlton. And this is actually Carlton's first ever win against an SA side at Adelaide Oval. So a great win from them in the end. They're able to pull away from Port Adelaide in the last quarter to win by 36 points. So a great win from Carlton in the end. There was one injury concern from this game late, which was Tom De Koning. He came off in the last minute, went up for a mark and landed quite awkwardly on his right arm. He did clutch at it and walked off the ground. Unfortunately, my brother who was watching this game, I actually had a date with my wife, so my brother covered it for us. He said that he couldn't really tell if he was just winded or had something wrong with his elbow. Haven't seen a lot of news about Tom De Koning on an injury front since, so I think he's okay, but just a little bit of a concern there from the end of that one. But let's get to the game itself. So pretty much an even start to this contest. Port Adelaide almost took the lead into quarter time, but the Blues got a late goal, actually brought the scores level going into the first change. In the second term, a lot like this season, Port Adelaide missed a lot of crucial chances with 1 goal, 6 for the term. And despite less scoring shots, the Blues kicked 2 goal 3 and then took the lead by 3 points at half time. It was more Carlton's turn in the third quarter to start missing their chances in front of goal. They did kick 3 goals 5, but Port Adelaide did well to convert some of their opportunities to kick 3 goals 1. They were still going down by 7 points into three-quarter time. Port Adelaide kept in touch with a goal-to-goal quarter in the third, but Carlton really flexed their muscles and took control in the final quarter. They kicked 2 quick goals to start the term and they didn't look back. Port Adelaide did respond a few times, but Carlton just was simply too strong. They ended the last quarter with 8 goals to run away comfortable winners by 36 points. So it's a good win from Carlton. I actually tipped Port Adelaide because of the fact that their record at Adelaide Oval has been very poor. But they are definitely building something, Carlton, and as long as they can continue this form, they will be up there this season. Port Adelaide, on the other hand, this is a real concern for them right now that they can bash up the teams down the bottom, but if they can't beat the teams up the top, they're not going to be able to compete in finals. So this is a real concern for Port Adelaide. It's been a story for them for a long time now. They'll probably make finals because of that, because their percentage will be decent, and I don't think they'd lose enough to miss the finals. They should be pretty decent at home against bottom teams, and even teams sort of around that 6 to about 10 mark, I would say they're probably going to be fine to beat. But those teams above 6, that's the teams that they struggle against, and that's why a lot of times you see them in finals go out pretty easily. On the statistics front though, Sam Walsh top scored with the 130, Tom De Koning with the 119, Nick Newman with the 108, Jason Horne-Francis, one of their best for Port Adelaide with the 98. Mitch Georgiades had a really good game, he kicked 4 goals with a 96, and then Patrick Cripps with the 95. Now let's get to the votes in this game. Now my brother gave these, of course. He has gone 3 votes to Sam Walsh, 2 votes to Tom De Koning, and the 1 vote to Chin Cotter. Now, that's an interesting one. I don't think many people would have seen Chin Cotter getting a vote here. But my brother has said that because he tagged Butters all night, he kept the influence of him really minimal, and he didn't have much of an impact on the game. Now, we've seen a few taggers get votes this year. We've seen James Jordan get it a few times. So Chin Cotter has got it here. And, I mean, if you can keep Butters under wraps, that's definitely a big way of going into beating Port Adelaide. So a good performance from him in the end. After that, we get to Friday night, Collingwood up against the Bulldogs, and Collingwood had a lot of injuries going into this game. The Bulldogs had 2 injuries throughout the game, which we'll get to in a minute, but the Bulldogs broke away late in the final quarter to take a 3-goal win by 18 points, of course. The Bulldogs 100, Collingwood 82. So, the first injury of this game for the Bulldogs was very early on to James Harmes. He pulled his hammy early in the game. I think it was 10 minutes into the first quarter. We saw it, me and my brother were streaming this. As soon as he ran off the ground, we thought he was done. He was subbed out soon after. The other injury as well was Lathan Vandermeer. He was taken off just before halftime, had ice on his hammy, and took no further part in the game. So that's 5 injuries now for the Bulldogs in the space of 2 weeks in game. So that's really concerning for them. Hopefully they don't lose too many more because they are really important players. Let's get to the start of this game though. Massive start from Collingwood. They piled on 3 quick goals before the Bulldogs could even blink. It was an ominous start for the Pies. But the Bulldogs did pull back some of the control, and the Pies missed a lot of chances in the first quarter. They kicked 5 goals, 7. So 12 scoring shots in the first quarter was massive. Just couldn't take a lot of their chances though. The Bulldogs fought their way back and were only down by 17 points at quarter time. The Dogs were able to kick 5 straight goals early in the second term to take the lead for the first time. But the Pies took a lot more of their chances in the second term when they were able to, and regained the lead late and took a 3-point lead into half time. The third term was a lot more of an arm wrestle. Both teams were struggling to score at times. But with 2 late goals to Collingwood, they were actually able to take an 11-point lead into 3-quarter time. But honestly, the aura of Collingwood winning close games or, holding on in situations when they're able to hold a lead at 3-quarter time, I think starting to vanish a little bit more. Now, the injuries, yes, are a concern, but they're losing that sort of edge around the contest. And in this last quarter, the Bulldogs basically dominated it. At one stage in the last quarter, they led the inside 50 count 15-2, and the Dogs absolutely dominated the territory battle. It not only kept the Pies goalless in the last quarter, but were able to kick 5 of their own to run away in the end to a pretty comfortable 18-point win. So a great win from the Bulldogs, but absolutely, once again, carrying them over the line was Marcus Bontempelli. What a last quarter he had. He had 14 touches, 4 tackles, and kicked a crucial goal in the game. Marcus Bontempelli, at three-quarter time, he was bordering on the votes for us, but after that last quarter, he just charged in front. Brilliant game from Marcus Bontempelli. He's done it again. Let's get to the statistics in this game. Marcus Bontempelli, of course, top scorer with the 159. Jack Crisp with the 123. Bailey Dale with the 123 as well. Cameron with the 117. English with the 116. And Adam Treloar with the 114. Now let's get to the votes in this game. And this was kind of tough. A lot of the way through the night, me and my brother on the stream were talking about who's going to get the 3-2-1 votes here. But we both talked after the game. We thought this is what the votes should be. So in the end, we've gone 3 votes, Marcus Bontempelli, 2 votes, Nick Dacos, and the 1 vote to Adam Treloar. So first game on Saturday, we had Hawthorn up against the Adelaide Crows. And Hawthorn, after a blistering start to this game, really held the Crows at bay for the majority of the afternoon and ran out winners 107-80 against Adelaide. There was one injury concern from this game, and it really is bad for the Adelaide Crows. It was Taylor Walker. He didn't return to the field at halftime after being ruled out with a back injury. The Crows, they didn't look like they had a game plan going forward without Taylor Walker. Fogarty had some moments, but this is a real concern for the Crows. And I think there's been a little bit of talk about the fact that last year Taylor Walker obviously had a massive season, but there was no development for their key forwards, and there's a lot of concern about that right now. Darcy Fogarty needed to take some sort of control in this game, and he just couldn't. And Hawthorn, they were brilliant, of course, but yeah, really poor performance from the Adelaide Crows. So let's get to the game. Hawthorn dominated the majority of the first term. They kicked the first 4 goals of the game, and honestly, like I said, the margin basically stayed at that point for the majority of the game. It never really dropped under 4 goals. The Crows did kick a few late goals and were still down by 20 points at quarter time. We saw 2 early goals to Hawthorn in the second term, but in my opinion, I don't think they really capitalised on the momentum that they had. If you watched the game, you would know how much dominance the Hawthorn Football Club had in the first half, but only led by 29 points at half-time. And honestly, I think they should have been in front by 40, 50 points. They were absolutely dominant in the first half. Now, the third quarter, it seemed like the Hawks were finally getting more of a margin that they deserved. They piled on 3 quick goals to take an 8-goal-plus lead midway through the third term. The Crows did kick 3 goals in 2 minutes throughout the third term, but a late goal on the siren from Jack Ginnivan really put the game to bed. And despite the Crows winning the final quarter, the Hawks ran away comfortable winners in the end by 27 points. So a great win from Hawthorn. They are in great form. I don't think they'll make the finals, but they are a sneaky chance, and they're a dark horse this season. They're definitely going to be a team that influences the 8 because they're going to be hard to beat for the rest of the year. Now, looking at the statistics front, top scorer was Matt Crouch with 133, Dylan Moore with the 132. He was amazing. Hinge with the 114, Scholl with the 110, Ginnivan with the 104, and the Rory Laird with the 99. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Dylan Moore, 2 votes went to Will Day, and the 1 vote went to Massimo D'Ambrosio. Now, Will Day, he had a massive first half. He was a real influence in pushing Hawthorn in front by so much. He petered a little bit off in the second half, but I still think he was their best midfielder by far. And D'Ambrosio, I loved his game off like that wing half-back role, so that's why those 2 got those votes there. And Dylan Moore, of course, 5 goals. He was influential in this win. Next game, of course, we have West Coast against St Kilda in the Twilight game. And West Coast were pretty big favourites to win this one, but St Kilda really grinded it out in the second half and were able to run away winners by 14 points, 82 to the Saints, 68 to the West Coast Eagles. There was one injury concern from this game, which was Max King. He did have a left knee concern throughout the third term, and at 3-quarter time was subbed out. Now, it's really concerning for the Saints, but on the other hand, they looked a lot more potent up forward in the last quarter when he was out because they looked a lot less predictable going up forward. So maybe something the Saints can think about going forward, but they have to find a way to get goals without just bombing it long to Max King, which is the big issue in the first half of the Saints. So, get to the game itself. The Saints absolutely dominated the territory battle in the first term, but didn't take a lot of their chances and continued to bomb the ball into their forward line and didn't give their forwards a chance. The Eagles kicked 2 late goals and actually took the lead at quarter time by 9 points. The Saints quickly regained the lead in the second term with 2 quick goals, but Harley Reid absolutely sparked the Eagles in the second term. He led the Eagles to a 14-point lead at halftime. But let's talk about his first half. He had 17 touches and 6 tackles, clearances galore. They couldn't stop him, the Saints. So the Saints actually had to chuck Marcus Windhager onto him as a tag in the second half. I don't even think Nick Dacos got tagged in his first 11 games, so that's massive respect to him. but he did get a little bit overawed by the situation. So in the second half, the Saints really started to get their things going in the third term, look more potent as they started to lower their eyes and not bomb long to the likes of McGovern and Barras. The Saints kicked 3 goals in a row to take the lead, but the Eagles again responded with 2 late goals and took a 5-point lead in the three-quarter time. And in the final quarter, with King out, the game looked a lot more dangerous for the Saints. They kept on lowering their eyes going forward, and they looked a lot less predictable, like I said earlier. The Eagles did kick the first goal of the term, but the Saints kicked 4 goals straight to gain the lead and were able to hold on for a big win away from home by 14 points. So a great win from St Kilda. They really needed to get that one to try and just lower the pressure on Ross Lyon and their team. Eagles, on the other hand, I think they should have really won this game. Harley Reid was a little bit undisciplined from the tagging role. I'm going to just say that, I don't think he would have expected being tagged, and it's the first time he's experienced it. So sometimes you're just going to get overawed by the situation, and I think he'll learn from that. So I don't think that's a big deal. So let's get to the statistics in this game. Top scorer, Mason Wood with 131, 4 goals off the wing. What a massive performance. Kind of moved forward in the last quarter and really won the game for the Saints. Liam Duggan with the 99, Elliot Yeo with the 98, Jinby with the 96, along with Jack Steele, which, by the way, Jack Steele had 0 fantasy points at quarter time. So you get 96 was amazing, and then Rowan Marshall with the 95. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Mason Wood, of course. 2 votes to Jeremy McGovern, and the 1 vote went to Marcus Windhager. So Jeremy McGovern kept the Eagles close in the last quarter, in my opinion. I felt they were being absolutely dominated, and he took a lot of intercept marks and just kept themselves in this game. It was an absolute wall for the Eagles throughout the whole night, but especially in that last quarter as well. And for Marcus Windhager, he had a pretty decent first half, but when he went to Harley Reid, who was by far the best player on the ground at halftime, he went to him in the second half, locked him down, I think the majority of the way in the Saints winning this game. I think I could have given him 2 votes, but I feel like his first half, a little bit less impact from Marcus Windhager, so a massive performance from him in the second half to lock down Harley Reid. About the Harley Reid sling tackle, unfortunately that's going to get weeks. I think Harley Reid will probably just get 1 because Darcy Wilson did come back onto the ground. Look, it may not even be the worst thing for Harley Reid because he can go home. I think they get the bye in round 14, so just give him a couple of weeks off, let him go back to Victoria, see his family. And hopefully everything will be all good. Anyway, let's move to the next game. Geelong up against the Tigers. And the Tigers, what a massive first half they had. They actually had a 29-point lead at one stage, but Geelong, the experience of them really rose in the second half, and they ran out winners by 30 points. There was 3 injury concerns from this game, so let's get through them. Ollie Henry, who was subbed out in the second term, he did a hamstring strain, and it does seem like he'll be out for at least 3 weeks. Marlon Pickett was subbed out in the final term with a calf concern, so unknown about that one at this stage. And then Lafau looked like a very serious knee injury, had his leg hyperextended when he went up for a mark and landed. He was able to walk off the ground, but there's real concern about another ACL, and their injuries continue to pile up. So hopefully they get a little bit of a reprieve, get a couple of players back in the next couple of weeks. But let's get to the game itself. The Tigers brought so much heat in the first quarter and basically the first half. It was something that they've brought the last couple of weeks. This is really good to see. The Tigers had a 3-goal lead late in the term, but the Cats did get a late goal, which saw them only down by 13 points at quarter time. In the second term, the Tigers continued to defy the odds, and at one point, like I said, had a 29-point lead late in the quarter. But the Cats did get 2 late goals to be down by only 16 points at half time. Now, finally, in the second half, the Cats started to get their game going and it hit the scoreboard. Their young midfielders in Bowes, Atkins, and Holmes really led from the front, which is a great sign for the Cats. In the end, they overturned a 29-point deficit late in the second term to lead by 3 points at three-quarter time. And in the final quarter, the Cats really started to get on top, dominating the territory battle, and not only kept the Tigers goalless in the final quarter, but did get 4 of their own and ran out comfortable winners in the end by 30 points. So, good signs for both teams here. I think Geelong are going to be a lot better against a team that's down the bottom. But the Tigers, in the last couple of weeks against really good sides in Essendon and Geelong, have done really well to stay competitive. So let's look at the statistics in this game. Top scorer was Toby Donkervis with the 141. He played really well. He's led from the front for quite a while now. Jack Bowes with the 130. Mitch Duncan with the 118. Liam Baker with the 112. Tom Atkins with the 111. And Ollie Dempsey with the 104. So let's get to the votes in this game. And this will be really exciting for Geelong fans. Their young guns are all involved in the 3 votes here. 3 votes went to Jack Bowes. 2 votes went to Ollie Dempsey. And the 1 vote went to Max Holmes. And now, guys, on Sunday, we have 2 games to look at. First of all, Melbourne versus Fremantle. And what an absolute shellacking the Fremantle Dockers gave to the Demons in the end. They won by 92 points in the end, 141 to Melbourne 49. There was 1 injury concern from this game. Lockie Hunter actually did a calf injury. He was subbed out at half time, so that's concerning. He only came back a couple of weeks ago, and now he'll be out for a little bit longer. But we'll get to the game. There's not really much I'm going to cover from the game, just a couple of concerns and praises for Fremantle. You'll see see the scoreline, it's actually quite surprising that the Demons kicked the first 2 goals of this game. After the first 5 minutes of this game, the Dockers were dominant. They led by 3 goals at quarter time, and at that point, Fremantle never looked back. They kicked, I think, 13 goals in the second and third quarter and truly demolished Melbourne. Every single player on the ground for the Dockers played their role and were a class above Melbourne throughout the whole game. Fremantle on the inside 50 count were 68 to Melbourne's 36. The younger Docker midfield made the experienced Demons look slow and lethargic, and all the Dockers forwards contributed on the scoreboard throughout the game other than Bailey Banfield. All of them actually kicked a goal, and most of them were multiple goal kickers. So many great signs for the Dockers, and it's very concerning for the Demons after this absolutely demoralising performance going up next week in the King's birthday clash. But this is yet again another Victorian team being not interested in playing a hard game of football in the NT. We saw Geelong a couple of weeks ago get absolutely smashed by the Gold Coast Suns, and now it just shows that the Melbourne teams don't want to play in these games anymore up in the NT. Now, the conditions of this game weren't actually too bad, but I just think it's the travel of going all the way up there just to come back for one game, and they just don't seem to like it. And I don't know why Melbourne, because they've had this agreement for the last couple of years to play a couple of games in the NT every year, and they don't perform in it. And it's costing them games and costing them positions on the ladder. And right now, after a shellacking in the end, they've lost their spot in the 8 because of their percentage. And Fremantle, to their credit, have got the second highest percentage now because of that win. So, in the end, there was not a lot to cover from this game. Other than the 5 minutes that Melbourne started off with, the Dockers just dominated the whole contest. And I mean, they need to analyse this game. They can't just sit there and say, oh, this was just unlucky. It wasn't us. We'll just get back next week. This was a smashing, and they shouldn't be getting smashed by the Dockers that easily. So, they've got some real concerns now, the Demons going into the King's birthday clash. But let's get to the statistics in this game, of course. Jordan Clark finished on 149. He's in All-Australian form. Luke Ryan with the 142. Jager O'Meara with the 115. Max Gordon, basically the only Melbourne player on the ground who could keep his head up high. He got 114. Hayden Young with the 108. And Sam Switkowski with the 106. Now we'll get to the votes in this game. 3 votes, of course, went to Jordan Clark. What a massive performance. 2 votes went to Josh Tracy. His performance around the ground was great. He also kicked 3 goals. And Sam Switkowski will get the 1 vote. Now, he only kicked 1 goal in this game, but he was involved. Out of his 25 touches, 10 of them were score involvements. He was all over the ground, and he is such a great player, Sam Switkowski. I've sung his praises. Probably not so much on this channel. I've always told my brother that he's one of the cleanest players in the AFL, and if he can play a full season for Fremantle, he's going to go a long way into them getting to maybe even a finals berth this year. Great performance to Sam Switkowski. He got the 1 vote, but for Fremantle as a whole, it was very hard to find 3 votes here because all of them played their role and all of them had a good performance here. So, very well done to Fremantle. And guys, let's get to the final game of the round. And it was one of the most entertaining games I've seen all the year. But in the end, the Gold Coast Suns were able to hold on and win against the second place Bombers, 91-80 in the end. There was one injury concern from this game, which was Kyle Langford, who was subbed out in the final quarter with a hip concern at this stage. I'm not too sure how serious it really is, so I'll have to wait on that front. But that could be a bit of a concern for the Bombers going for the next couple of weeks, especially against Carlton next week. But let's get to the game itself. And the Bombers absolutely dominated the first quarter, but just couldn't convert on the scoreboard. We've seen that a lot of times this year. They kicked 3-5 in the first term, and the Suns did get 2 of the last 3 goals in the quarter to only be down by 9 points at quarter time. It was a close early part to the second term, with only 1 goal scored from the Gold Coast Suns. But for the rest of the quarter, they continued their form, kicked 3 of the next 4 goals, and the Suns actually took an 8-point lead into half-time. Now, the Suns did kick the first 2 goals of the second half and led the game by a game-high 21 points. But the Bombers owned the majority of the quarter, but unfortunately, again, they butchered it in front of goal. In the quarter, the Bombers kicked 2-5 to the Gold Coast Suns, who kicked 3-2. And it truly showed the fact that the Bombers couldn't take their chances, even though they had so much of the momentum and were down by 11 points at 3-quarter time. Now, the Bombers did kick the first 2 goals of the last quarter to draw level, but the Suns were able to respond, and it became more of a goal-to-goal contest for the moment. But the Suns did kick 3 goals in a row and seemingly looked like they were going to hold on. But the Bombers did fight their way back with 2 goals to make it a really special finish to this game. But the captain in Took Miller took charge. He kicked the goal to break the game open, and in the end, the Suns held on to an 11-point win. So a great win from the Suns. They've been able to win away from home, but if they can win maybe 2 games, maybe even 3 games away from home towards the end of the second half of the season, they will make finals. They're currently in the 8. We'll get to the ladder in a minute, but a great performance from the Suns. Bombers, on the other hand, I don't think they'll lose too many supporters from that. They're still in second spot, so they're still in prime position to make finals. But yeah, great win from the Suns in the end. Now to the statistics front, Noah Anderson top scored with the 118, Zach Merritt with the 115, Sam Flanders with the 113, Matt Rao with the 102, along with Alex Sexton, and then Jai Caldwell with the 101. Now let's get to the votes in this game. 3 votes went to Noah Anderson, 2 votes to Zach Merritt, and the 1 vote went to Nick Hind. I loved his game in the end. He's playing off a half-back to wing role. He did play a little bit up forward later in the game and made a real impact with his foot speed, so really enjoyed his performance in the end, hence the 1 vote. But guys, of course, with that all being said, let's get to the AFL ladder. Up top, of course, is still the Sydney Swans, 6 points in front of the Bombers, who are in second spot. Sydney obviously have the game in hand with the bye this week. The Cats are in third with a big win, and they're still on 32 points with Port Adelaide, and Carlton have gone up to fifth spot. The Dockers are in 6th spot with a massive win against the Demons. The Giants are in 7th. The Gold Coast, as I said, have broken into the 8. The 9th position team now is Collingwood, who have dropped out. The Demons are down into 10th spot, so what a drop-off they've had this week. The Bulldogs, fighting their way back, are in 11th spot. Still a big chance with that good percentage. The Hawks sitting in 12th spot with 20 points. The percentage is a bit of an issue, but if they can maybe get a couple of wins going towards the end of the season, they could be a dark horse. The Brisbane Lions obviously had the bye this week. They're sitting in 13th. The Crows sitting in 14th spot. I know a lot of people wouldn't have expected that. The Saints with their win are still in 15th, but get a game in hand over the top of the West Coast Eagles, who lost and are in 16th spot. The Tigers have improved the last few weeks, but are still in 17th. And of course, North Melbourne are still bottom of the ladder. But guys, that is all we have for you today for the review. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you watched on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. Really appreciate the support lately. And if you are on Spotify, make sure to follow and leave us 5 stars. If you follow, of course, you will be notified on every single episode of the podcast, the review, and the trade videos that we drop as well. But guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And of course, we'll catch us all next week.